And it just goes to show that all of us who have been speaking out about this and saying, like, it doesn't seem like you guys are giving Caitlyn, you know, the kind of props that she deserves for bringing all these eyeballs and, you know, the Caitlyn Clark effect that we talk about, viewership, money, all of those things. All of the people who were shouting this for the entire WNBA season, this is an instance where we are proving.
What if I told you that the most important shot in women's basketball this year wasn't taken on a court? It wasn't a game-winning three-pointer or a record-breaking free throw. It was a single silent frame in a commercial that lasted for less than a second. A frame so packed with hidden meaning that it broke the internet and sent a clear, uncompromising message to the entire sports world. The era of quiet, grateful female athletes was over. A new one had begun, and it was being led by a rookie who the league itself seemed completely unprepared for. This is a story of how Caitlyn Clark transformed from a basketball phenom into a full-blown marketing anomaly, and how a multi-billion-dollar corporation was forced about a public pressure and anoint her as the undeniable face of the game. Stick around, because the way this all unfolded reveals a shocking rift between the WNBA and its most valuable star.
I was once that little Iowa girl who was inspired to dream big, real big. And that dream was more than women's basketball. It was possibility that I turned into reality. I'm still that girl from Iowa, but now it's my turn to inspire. If I can drop 40, you can drop 50. If we can draw 56,000 fans, you can draw 57.
It all started not with a bang, but with a whisper before the global fame, before the Nike deal that would change everything. Caitlyn Clark was just a college superstar at Iowa, known for shattering records and filling arenas with a level of excitement that felt truly special. But the transition from college sensation to professional icon is a chasm that many promising athletes never successfully cross. The marketing world was watching, but with a cautious, wait-and-see attitude. Then, that pivotal State Farm commercial aired. On the surface, it was a standard regional insurance spot. It should have been just another athlete endorsement, a footnote in her early career. But something was profoundly different the moment she appeared on screen. Caitlyn didn't look like a nervous student reading lines off a cue card, intimidated by the studio lights. She looked like she'd been starring in national campaigns for a decade, with a preternatural calm that you simply can't teach. Her timing was flawless. Her presence was effortless, and her delivery felt authentically her. It was the same confident, composed persona millions saw on the court, effortlessly translated to a new medium. Behind the scenes, marketing executives at every major company were watching, and the data that came back was absolutely insane. This one quiet commercial didn't just do well. It reportedly outperformed the entire marketing campaigns for previous WNBA finals in terms of engagement and recall. The viewership metrics spiked in a way that made industry analysts double-check their numbers. In that moment, a light bulb went off in boardrooms from Beaverton to Chicago. They weren't looking at an athlete who could simply do ads. They were looking at a rare, natural-born performer, an advertising engine perfectly disguised as an athlete. The gold rush had begun, and the first claim had been staked not with a shout, but with a calm, confident performance that redefined what was possible. And just like that, the quiet scramble turned into a full-blown corporate frenzy. Nike, Gatorade, Wilson, they all wanted a piece of Caitlyn Clark, realizing she possessed the elusive it factor that transcends sport.
When you strip away the noise and the bright lights, it's just the game you loved as a kid.
Chance of defense by the Sparks fans. 6 on the shot clock. Clark, a deep 3.
Feet on the hardwood, basketball in hand, guiding you, inspiring you, working on the player you dream to be. Because the ball will always bring you back to your favorite place. calm, focused, and confident. To the place all roads lead, the game of basketball.
But as the offers piled up and the bidding wars began behind closed doors, a significant problem was brewing for the biggest and most influential brand of all, Nike. For years, the company had positioned itself as a champion of women's athletics, but a growing contingent of fans and advocates began calling them out publicly for a perceived gap between their messaging and their actions. The Dear Nike campaign went viral across social media platforms, accusing the company of talking a big game about supporting women, but staying curiously silent when it truly mattered, particularly in how they promoted and invested in their female roster of athletes compared to their male counterparts. The pressure was mounting in a very public way. The world was waiting to see if the sneaker giant would step up and make a definitive, undeniable statement, or if they would shrink away from the moment and risk being labeled as hypocrites. They needed to do more than just sign Caitlin Clark to a standard endorsement contract. They needed to make a statement so powerful, so visually stunning, and so culturally resonant that it would silence their critics for good and reclaim their position at the forefront of the movement. The stage was set for a response that would need to be nothing short of a masterpiece. What came next wasn't just a response. It was a declaration of war on the status quo and a masterclass in modern marketing. Nike's Caitlin Clark commercial opened not with a booming voiceover or an explosive highlight reel, but in total, deafening silence. The scene was a dim, almost sacred-looking locker room. Caitlin, sitting alone, clad in her fever jersey, lifts her head with slow, deliberate intensity and slowly opens one eye. And the internet absolutely lost its collective mind. At first glance, it looked terrifying and surreal. A CGI snake eye, a reptilian iris glowing ominously under shadows. The visual was so striking that it commanded a second look. People paused the video. They zoomed in. They enhanced the frame on their phones and computers, trying to decode the cryptic message they were seeing. It became a digital scavenger hunt, and what they discovered sent shockwaves through social media, fueling thousands of reaction videos and think pieces. It wasn't a snake eye at all. It was the iconic Kobe Bryant Black Mamba logo, subtly built into the very fabric of her pupil, a hidden tribute woven into the anatomy of her gaze. This was no accident or random artistic choice. It was a deeply intentional, symbolic handoff. It was the fiercest competitor of one generation publicly passing the torch to the new one, anointing her as the heir to that same relentless mentality. That single, intentional frame triggered millions of reactions, edits, and slow motion breakdowns. It was a masterclass in visual storytelling that rewarded close attention. And that was only the first 10 seconds. The ad then shifted, bringing in other elite athletes like Io Wilson and Sabrina Ionescu with a voiceover that was pure, unadulterated defiance. "You'll be told you can't do it," the narrator said, each word a hammer blow to doubt. "So do it anyway." Every line was a direct counterpunch to the doubts and criticisms female athletes have heard for generations. Nike wasn't just promoting a player. They were anointing the leader of a movement, and they did it with a level of artistry that demanded respect. But virality and artistic acclaim are one thing. Making money and moving merchandise is the ultimate metric in the corporate world. And this is where the Caitlin Clark effect went from a cultural curiosity to a bona fide business school case study. Marketing professionals have a term for this, the conversion effect. It's the ability to not just generate likes and views, but to directly translate that attention into tangible sales. And the data was overwhelming. Gatorade released Caitlin-themed water bottles and towels, and they sold out in a matter of days, becoming must-have items in gyms and schools. Wilson dropped special edition basketballs with her CC monogram, a logo some people had initially mocked online for its simplicity, and it instantly became hot collector's items, popping up on resale sites for crazy markups, sometimes double or triple the original price. The numbers were undeniable and consistent across the board. Every brand she touched saw the same pattern: viral clips, skyrocketing sales, and engagement levels that were basically unheard of for women's team sports. But the most powerful proof, the qualitative data that cemented her status, was found in the comments sections and on fan forums. Thousands of people openly admitted that this was the first WNBA jersey they had ever bought, the first time they had ever intentionally searched for Indiana Fever highlights, the first time they had ever tuned into a regular season game. Caitlin Clark had become the most powerful marketing asset in the history of women's basketball, a one-woman customer acquisition machine. For corporations, she wasn't just hype or a positive news story. She was pure, measurable revenue, and that is a language every global brand understands fluently. And this is where the story gets really uncomfortable and exposes a fascinating tension within the sports ecosystem. Because while Nike, Gatorade, and Wilson were aggressively cashing in on this unprecedented demand, a strange and palpable dissonance was becoming impossible to ignore for fans and analysts alike. The very league she played for, the WNBA, often seemed to be lagging behind, appearing almost hesitant, as if being dragged into the blinding spotlight she was single-handedly creating. The league's promotional strategies, its media coverage allocations, and even the tone of some internal narratives sometimes failed to match the seismic shift she represented. It became painfully clear to everyone watching that Caitlin Clark wasn't merely riding the league's existing momentum. The league was unequivocally riding hers. The contrast was never sharper or more damning than when you looked at the strategy employed by another sport entirely, the LPGA. When the Women's Professional Golf Tour invited Caitlin to an event, they didn't just give her a complimentary ticket and a polite greeting. They executed a flawless plan. They partnered her with their biggest star, Nelly Korda. They put cameras on her every practice swing and drive. They sold special ticket packages and allowed fans to get up close, strategically turning a simple golf outing into a major, multi-sport cultural moment that dominated sports headlines for days. They understood the assignment completely. They embraced her stardom fully, without reservation or ego, and the public reaction was enormous and overwhelmingly positive. The message was clear and unmistakable. While her own league sometimes seemed hesitant to fully lean into the phenomenon, the rest of the sport and marketing world saw her for what she was, the undeniable gravitational center of women's sports, and they were eager to build their orbits around her. So what is the secret sauce? What is it about her that makes this all work so effectively, where other incredibly talented and accomplished athletes have struggled to achieve the same commercial and cultural lift? It all goes back to that very first State Farm ad and the core of her personal brand. She possesses a rare and almost unnerving authenticity on camera that cuts through the usual polished corporate sheen of athlete endorsements. She behaves in front of the lens the exact same way she does behind the arc when taking a game-winning shot. Calm, composed, confident, and completely unbothered by the immense pressure or the millions of eyes upon her. There is no visible performance, no apparent effort to be someone she's not. Brands can buy a massive audience through ad spending, but they can't buy that kind of natural, effortless believability. It's an innate quality. The do-it-anyway message of the landmark Nike campaign worked so powerfully because it wasn't a focus group manufactured slogan. It was the authentic story of her entire basketball life. She's the one who took and made logo three-pointers when old-school critics said women shouldn't or couldn't shoot from that far. She's the one who broke records that everyone in the sport thought were untouchable for decades. The ads work because they aren't creating a marketable persona from scratch. They're simply holding up a mirror to her reality, amplifying truth that was already there. And that resonance is what connects with people on a deeper level than any scripted line ever could. This influence, now supercharged by relentless brand campaigns, began to leak far beyond the hardwood courts of the WNBA. It started happening organically in homes, in school hallways, and on playgrounds across the country. Kids were suddenly bringing Caitlin Clark-branded Gatorade bottles to school lunch, a subtle but significant shift in lunchroom cool. Middle school girls were asking their parents for her signature Wilson basketball, not just to play with, but as a trophy to display in their rooms. College students and sneakerheads were actively searching and speculating online about the release date of her signature Nike shoes, which at that point were still just a rumor, a testament to the anticipation she generates. Brands, in their relentless and savvy pursuit of her, weren't just selling products. They were actively and very successfully shaping the culture around her, building a fandom that transcended the sport of basketball itself. This widespread, mainstream cultural imprint was something the WNBA itself had never quite managed to accomplish for any of its other stars, no matter how legendary their on-court achievements were. The free market, through its sales data and social trends, was making its position brutally clear and appeared to be leaving the league's own marketing apparatus behind, revealing a crucial gap between the institution and the icon it now housed. So where does this all lead? What is the end game when a player stops being just an athlete and evolves into a full-blown, self-sustaining cultural movement? The answer is the old rules become obsolete and the playbook is rewritten forever. Nike's groundbreaking commercial was more than an ad. It was a line in the sand, a marker that divided the past from the future. It signaled to every corporation on the planet that Caitlin Clark isn't a passing trend or a flash in the pan. She is a reset button on how women athletes are valued and marketed. Her next shoe drop won't just be a sale. It will be a historical event, almost certainly shattering all previous records for a women's signature athletic line. Her next major endorsement deal won't be a simple contract. It will be a cultural statement about the commercial power of women's sports. Brands now know this as a cold, hard fact. Fans can feel it in the energy surrounding every game and product launch. And even her most vocal critics are being forced to accept the sheer scale of her impact. The WNBA now stands at a critical crossroads. It can either fully embrace this new reality, overhaul its strategies, and build a modern, aggressive marketing machine unapologetically centered around its brightest star, or it can risk being perceived as a relic, a league that was handed a once-in-a-generation talent and didn't quite know what to do with her. The rise of Caitlin Clark isn't slowing down or waiting for anyone to catch up. It's accelerating at a breathtaking pace, and everyone watching can feel the ground shifting beneath their feet in real time. If you were surprised by the hidden story behind her rise and how it's fundamentally changing the game forever, let us know in the comments what you think the WNBA's next move should be. Do you think the league is fully adapted, or is there still a gap between Clark's stardom and their strategy? And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the stories you won't hear anywhere else.